PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. What are the main causes? Where are its roots located? Who planted it? Who watered it? And most importantly, who allowed it to grow? A cursory inquiry will reveal that post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD for short, is a very real disorder that develops when a human being, or even an animal for that matter, has experienced or perhaps witnessed a scary, shocking, terrifying, or otherwise dangerous event in their lives. With that said, as time continues to roll and the symptoms of those affected become more and more prevalent, the reality and horror of its nature becomes more defined, more varied, more complicated, and more elusive. Why is that? The often told stories of secret agents knowing 1,000 people comes into play here. It is often said that secret agents know at least 1,000 people with different skill sets that can be of use to them. The reality of this story, however, is that secret agents actually only know about 5 people that have the skill sets that they need. However, those 5 original people in turn know another 5 people each that have different skill sets, and so on, until the original 5 resources have been networked into a theory that declares, if you know 5 people, then in reality you must know about 1,000 others. If at this point you are wondering what all of this has to do with PTSD, then pay strict attention so that you can understand the reason why post-traumatic stress disorder can't be packaged into a neat and precise definition. There was a time not in the distant past where PTSD wasn't understood nor discussed openly as it is now. This is where the knowing 1,000 persons theory comes into play. As we begin to openly discuss PTSD with others in very different occupations as ours, we soon discover that this very real disorder is not confined to the previous definition. We find that the very real disorder of PTSD breaks free of the confines of conventional understanding. If you know 5 human beings afflicted by PTSD, then by proxy you really know about 1,000 or more. One thing is for certain about the disorder. Humans who are afflicted with this disorder share the following common parameters: highly stressful environments that include, but are not limited to, police officers, correctional officers, firefighting units, emergency medical technicians, emergency dispatchers, nursing staff, doctors, soldiers, commercial pilots, and even animals that have served in hostile environments like police dogs and drug and bomb-sniffing dogs. PTSD cases disappear with time and are often swept away by society. During World War I and World War II, horses were commandeered to serve in that horrific war, and many of its survivors were considered damaged goods because of the trauma suffered by these noble beasts. Today, war horses are rarely discussed among the many victims of PTSD. In our chosen field of corrections, PTSD cases are high and off the charts. Why is that? The answers to that question are insurmountable. But even for staff that have served their tour of duty without witnessing per se, the traditional definition of witnessing horrible or shocking acts becomes susceptible to PTSD, especially after retirement. The reason for this curious predicament is labeled by correctional staff simply as adrenaline junkies. We share that term with the aforementioned careers, and in a current conversation with a retired nurse with over 20 years under her belt, she confirmed symptoms that correctional staff also suffer from, even though they work under different circumstances. Examples include lack of smell and lack of auditory excitement. Nurses and medical unit personnel are impervious to the sounds of sirens, fire trucks, screaming, and arguing. They also are oblivious to the smell of accidents, body fluids, and death. Correctional officers also share the very same traits. Most seasoned correctional officers become impervious to screams, violence, radio traffic, profane language, and twisted humor. The smell of blood, feces, and body odor go by unnoticed. This is the beginning of PTSD. This, of course, doesn't imply that the aforementioned staff can't actually hear or smell. They just learn to tune it out. This tuning out comes at a cost, however, because the body accepts this as normal, when in fact it is not. One area that lies unexplored, simply because it is out of the reach of conventional science and is common to both the medical profession and the correctional profession, may well be an important key to understanding one of the root causes of PTSD. The key in question is that members of both professions must on a daily basis enter an institution where sickness, death, and despair is everywhere. Prison officers enter into an invisible cloud of negativity and murderous thoughts. Medical staff similarly must enter on a daily basis an institution where sickness and death surround them. It is unreasonable for a reasonable person to accept that this invisible sticky atmosphere is healthy for the mind and soul. This is why professionals in these careers are considered adrenaline junkies. Years and years of adrenaline-fueled conditioning, like anything else in life, results in a dependency. And when this dependency is no longer available, something in the human being becomes rebellious. What is it that becomes rebellious in humans after they stop feeding it the adrenaline it craves? The learned professors and medical authorities all have their opinions, but the reality is nobody really knows. It appears that this so-called disorder lies somewhere beyond the reach of what physical science can explore and where only the afflicted can enter. But one thing is clear: PTSD is real. The chances of coming under its powerful spell are as sure as getting wet if you were to fall into a tub of water if you spend any amount of time working in ADCRR. The purpose of this video was not to diagnose or recommend a method of prevention, because there really aren't any, but rather to discuss this disorder freely and confirm its existence within the correctional setting or any other career where adrenaline fuels the senses and the uncommon has to be made common.